Hello, my name is David Witkowski. I'm a clarinet, saxophone, and flute musician and instructor living in Northern California, right outside of Sacramento. I've been playing professionally for about 40 years and teaching for about 30 years. And believe it or not, I've never had a bad day, and I actually enjoy teaching more now than when I first started. When I did first start teaching, I quickly discovered that I had the same love and passion for teaching music as I did for performing music. Also started to explore the creative aspect of teaching and all the creativity that goes into creating a lesson and teaching that lesson and working with students, and the joy of working with students over many, many years. I started to shape my own teaching style, trying to figure out what my teaching style would be. And one of the things I was able to do, and part of my teaching style, is bringing my humor, some would say quirky sense of humor, to the lessons. It makes it a light atmosphere within the lesson. I realized that I was teaching and liked the style of teaching that is a Socratic method. Now, it's just a fancy way of saying that you're teaching by asking the student questions. It's very interactive. I like to think of it as just conversational learning. You're kind of having a discussion about music in an enjoyable way. And oh, by the way, you're learning a lot of just basic music concepts, music history, biographies of the composer, all that sort of wrapped into the lesson or included in the lesson. Discovered just how patient I was and continue to be in the lessons with students. I probably hear that at least once a week. Just last week, one of my adult students was saying to me, "Boy, you're just so patient." And it's not like I have to work at it. I just want the student to get it. But it's not just patience to keep explaining something over and over and over in the same way and hoping that maybe this time the student will get it. No. It's patience as well as finding new ways, different ways to explain what it is I'm trying to teach. Even if it's a basic concept, and even if it is a concept that I was taught and many others were taught a certain way, but maybe this student isn't getting it that way. So it's patience to find that other way to explain. And I have many ways of explaining basic music concepts, and I'm thrilled if I need to create another one that will work with an individual student. Inventing new methods for teaching rhythms and teaching note reading, and inventing new ways of teaching jazz improvisation. I loved my teachers growing up and had excellent teachers through high school and into college. But I always think, well, maybe I could find even a better way to do it. And I'm sure my teachers would be proud that I'm doing that I'm trying to find new and exciting and interesting ways to do that. Of course, now we have technology to incorporate through apps and music software and things like that. Well, all of that got incorporated into my teaching, and it led to something I wasn't counting on, which was that I was going to be teaching, no matter what it was, I was teaching material, the same material maybe for decades, but I would be teaching it differently. It would be new. It would be new because it would be new for that student. Even something as basic as Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now you think, well, okay, you're going to teach Mary Had a Lamb. Is it really going to be different for you doing it the gazillionth time? And the answer is yeah, because it's being taught to that student, and it's the excitement for that student. And by the way, when a student could be 8 or 80, it doesn't matter. When you hear a melody, whether it's Twinkle Twinkle or Mary Had a Little Lamb, when you hear that coming out of your instrument, an instrument you're holding and blowing into for the first time, there's a smile, there's an excitement, and I'm still able to kind of share in that excitement in a way that I experienced and have experienced thousands of times over the years for students when they get to that point. So if it's true of Mary Had a Little Lamb, imagine when I'm teaching major classical works to students, when I'm working on jazz band, jazz improvisation, when I'm preparing students for auditions and honor bands, and their local bands are doing chairing. And even for those students, especially for the students that are going on and becoming music majors and have to prepare for an audition. There was a problem early on when I was teaching. And actually, it was a problem that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And that was the lack of variety in the sheet music and music books that was out there. students would request things, and it wouldn't be available, or it'd be so difficult to find that, or be back ordered, and by the time I found it, that movie or that song wouldn't even be popular anymore, and they'd say, oh, you know what, I'm sick of that song, after months of maybe trying to find it. So it became my mission, my quest to be able to find music and open up the amount of musical styles that I would use and types of songs that I would use. And it just kept growing and growing and growing to this point where I have quite a wide range of musical styles and songs that I use. Classical, which you can roll into that, concert band material, jazz, and of course jazz band, and all types of jazz. Swing, the big band jazz, swing jazz, Latin jazz, fusion, smooth jazz, country jazz, any kind of jazz, world music, pop, Broadway show music, video game music. There's a ton of it out there, and what's interesting about it is very few video games have words, so all of it has great melodies, which is important to those of us who don't sing. So in a given lesson, and certainly in a given week, we can be playing Mozart, we can be playing an Irish dance, we can be doing a Count Basie big band chart, we can be playing an Argentinian tango, Japanese folk melody, and an AC/DC heavy metal tune. Now, I'm not picking those just to make it seem really, really diverse. That literally is what I was thinking. I was thinking of the exact songs that I use in a given week, and that's not even all of them. So that kind of gives you an idea of the diversity of musical styles that I use with students in the lesson. And I mentioned tech earlier. I was incorporating that long before COVID, back in the days, and I had to carry my boombox with CDs to have background background tracks that I wanted to use with students, whether they were movie theme backgrounds or backgrounds for working on jazz improvisation. And now we have for many years, software and interactive programs for learning theory and different apps that are out there. And now MP3 backgrounds, which I use for probably about 99% of the songs I teach in the lessons, which, by the way, those MP3 backgrounds they're fun to use, but are also an important tool because it keeps you honest with time. You're playing along with that background track, and it's really more realistic. There's a reason we call these instruments, like I teach flute, clarinet, and saxophone band instruments, and of course it applies to trumpets and all of the brass instruments as well. So all of this that I've shaped and developed over the years, it all funneled into these lessons over the past 30 years, being interesting, creative, productive, they're informative, they're challenging, they're highly rewarding. Did I forget anything? Yes, they're just flat out fun. So that's a little bit about me and the way I teach. And you folks have a great day.